Pony in Hyrule by Pushi2009. Chapter 7. Point of View. Vio. I wish I'd got to know them more, but I suppose that would have made it even harder when they would have had to leave. I knew it was inevitable from the day I met her. The idea I thought of last night came back into my head. Crazy, but it would work. Vio, what are you thinking about? Twilight asked me, snapping back down to Hyrule. Oh, nothing, I replied. We were almost at the house when Fluttershy came running out, a scared expression on her face. What's the matter? I said, running to her. The monsters! They've taken Blue, Red, Applejack and Pinkie Pie, she gasped. What? Me and Twilight said. What about Green? Said Twilight. He's hurt, Fluttershy said, but they didn't take him, she said. I ran inside and saw Green lying on the floor. Blood was trickling down his neck and onto the floor. Oh crap, no. I ran inside and saw Green lying on the floor. He had a large gash on his forehead and his sleeve was ripped. Blood was trickling down his neck and onto the floor. I don't think I'm gonna make it, he croaked. No, come on Green, hang in there, I shouted. I can't, Green said, coughing up some blood. Green, come on, hang in there, Green! Green! I yelled. Green laid his head back and his eyes rolled upwards into his head. Right then, a purple aura surrounded him. What the? I said, surprised. I looked around and saw Twilight's horn glowing. She had her eyes closed and her face was screwed up in concentration. Green's forehead was healing up. The blood was disappearing. Green's eyes snapped open. Where? He said, quickly getting up. Then he realized. Twilight collapsed on the floor, panting. You saved me, Green said, after I tried to kill you. Twilight just nodded. She was too tired to even walk. The spell must have drained her energy. Thank you so much, he said, hugging her tightly. She was too tired to speak. I was surprised that Twilight saved him. I knew that she would, but saving someone on the brink of death? That was some powerful magic. Me, Green and Fluttershy had come up with the most intricate, most detailed, most devious plot to get our friends back. Find them and fuck the monsters up. That was it. Green, you stay here with Twilight, I said. Green opened his mouth to say that he was going as well, but decided that it would be better for him to stay. I grabbed my sword, and also Red and Blue's swords, which were lying on the floor next to where Green had laid. I picked up my bow and enchanted quiver. Fluttershy had decided that she would come as well. As me and her walked out of the door, I felt a hand on my shoulder. And Vio? Green said, his hand on my shoulder. Give 'em hell. I nodded and walked out, shutting the door. Now then, which way did they go? I said to myself. I think they went that way, Fluttershy said to me. I can smell them. Of course, they're ponies. They would have a great sense of smell. I followed Fluttershy into the forest. It was starting to get dark. We had been walking for a few hours. I'm sure, Fluttershy said again and again. The smell is strong now. I saw something out of the corner of my eye that made my stomach turn. I grabbed Fluttershy and pulled her behind a clump of bushes. Shh! I said to her. I peered out from the bushes. A fire was lit in a clearing. At least 10 moblins sat around it on logs, but these weren't ordinary moblins. They had purple skin. They wore deer skulls on their heads. They each had a large silver machete beside them. 4 sacks lay next to the fire. It was then that I noticed a roasting hog skewered above the fire. Well, would you believe that? The largest, ugliest moblin said, probably the chief. 2 Hylians and too many horses. I can't wait to eat them tomorrow, he said. Wait here, I'll be back, I said to her, pulling my knife out and twirling it around. I got that very knife from Steiner, you know. He was a smithy's assistant before he went crazy. I sneaked towards the sack, keeping low. Moblins are big, but very stupid. I reached the sacks but needed time. I picked up a rock off the ground and hurled it in the direction of the moblins. A small thud was heard. Just as I expected, they didn't even notice. I guess I had no other choice. He told me never to do it unless it was a real emergency, but this was a real emergency. I rolled up my left sleeve. I tapped a few buttons on the monitor. I knew I was safe. I ripped the first sack open with my knife. Pinkie Pie was inside. She was unconscious but still alive. No, she was unconscious but still warm. She was alive. I picked her up and carried her over to the bushes. I lay her down gently next to Fluttershy. "You saved her," she whispered to me. I walked slowly back over to the next sack. I ripped it open to find Red. He had a cut on his cheek but was warm. I carried him back to Fluttershy and went back. I tore open the next sack and carried AJ back. As I ripped open the final sack, Blue was in there, but he was conscious. He let out a yelp in surprise. All 10 of the moblins turned towards us. I felt something funny in my left arm. "Ugh," I moaned as I regained consciousness. I was tied next to the fire with AJ, Fluttershy, Pinkie, Red and Blue beside me. "We don't like it when our food talks," said one of the moblins. I had a clever retort, but decided not to say it. "Say," said the chief moblin, "I'm pretty hungry right now," he said. There was murmurs of agreement around the logs. "I think we should eat your one first," the chief said. "If you lay your filthy hands on her, I'm gonna rip you limb to limb," I said. "Oh, I'm so scared," said the moblin. "A little alien is tied up and they think they can pull my arms off. Ooh, oh no," the chief said in a high-pitched voice. High-pitched, could have done that sooner. The laughter rang around the campfire. "That's your last warning," I said. "If you favour your arms and your life, then you should let us go right now." I was perfectly confident that I could kill these fuckers single-handedly. The chief just snorted and grabbed Fluttershy. "You let her go right now," I screamed at him. "I'm gonna fucking end your miserable existence." He laughed and dangled her above the fire. He swung her in and out of the flames. She was screaming in pain, and I was screaming in anger. I broke out of the ropes. I walked towards the chief. He dropped Fluttershy, luckily outside the fire, and threw a punch at me with his right arm. I grabbed his fist with my left hand. I heard a crunching sound which was the moblin's knuckles breaking. I lifted my foot up to his shoulder, pushed as hard as I could with my foot, and pulled as hard as I could with my hand. His arm came off. I swiftly pulled out my knife with my right hand and cut his other arm off. I swung my right hand at him and beat him to death with his own arm. Everyone and Pony was staring in awe once again. The moblins reacted sooner. "Get him!" one of them shouted. They all charged towards me, all 9 of them. Keeping my cool, I turned around and said something to myself. "Open fire." I didn't want them to find out. Oh well, they would have found sooner or later. Sooner or later. 9 moblins lay dead in front of me. They were weak, even though they were the special ones. I ran over to my friends and untied them. "Vio, what the bloody hell is that thing?" Blue said, looking at the device in my hand. "Kuba armor-piercing Model 40, I replied. But what is it?" Green said. "Gun," I snorted. "Gun?" Blue said. "Where did you get it?" Red said, over Blue's shoulder. "You're not going to believe a word I say, so I won't bother," I said. I didn't feel too good. "Go on, tell us. We promise we'll believe every word you say, Sugar Cube," Applejack said. I sighed. "Fine. I went to the future, the year 2026 to be precise. There had been a huge war the previous year. There were no monsters, no magic, nothing. The weapons they used, mainly these guns, but also robots." "What are robots?" Red said. "They're made of metal, but they move. Some robots look like Hylians. Others has propellers that spun around, allowing them to fly. The war had been devastating. Many cities were in ruins. Millions of lives lost, innocent and soldiers. These guns fire bullets, small lead pellets. I loaded my Cap 40, reference, Kuba armor-piercing Model 40, and shot it against a tree trunk. The bullet went clean through. See? I said. Even those moblins died of one shot each. This thing shouldn't even exist, I said, putting my cap back into my tunic. This is making my head go crazy wazy, Pinkie Pie said. Forget this, man. Let's just go home. They all started to walk away, Applejack sniffing their way home. I looked and remembered. Fluttershy was crying. Shh, it's okay, I said, picking her up. Her side was burning, not literally. I carried her back, following the others.